I haven't been watching the news for a very long time. And I'm talking about mainstream media and the Young Turks for an extremely long time. Probably around a few months. Maybe that's not too long to most people, but for me it's a very long time because I always used to watch MSNBC, NBC, Fox, whatever, you name it. Not really much Fox. I've always hated Fox because I thought it was some Republican facade that was trying to keep us away from the liberal truth. The liberal truth. And then I watched MSNBC for a while, and eventually I got to the viewpoint that it wasn't progressive enough. It wasn't going against Obama because I already knew that Obama wasn't a good guy. Obama wasn't someone that was a good guy. He was never a progressive. I thought he was sort of a progressive in the first place, but later on, about like a week or so later, maybe a year or so later, I'm sorry, I'm not actually telling the entire truth. About a year or so later, I found out that Obama didn't really give a shit. He didn't. It wasn't that he was trying to do something, but he couldn't do it because he doesn't have all the power as a president. No, it was because he wanted to. It was because he's a piece of shit. Obama is a piece of shit just like any other president before him. And I would say that about almost everyone. Even Jimmy Carter. There are presidents and then there are presidents. And guess what? Both parties, Republican, Democrat, they're not progressive. They're not out for us. They're out for themselves. That's all they are out for. They're out for the power. It doesn't matter if they're Democrat. It doesn't matter if they're Republican. They're out for themselves. All they want is the money that they get from the people over up on top. Now, of course, this was the sort of mindset that I had when I was watching the Young Turks. Of course, everyone in the government is not really in the government, but they're a big part of this facade that's just they're government, but they're actually working for the people on top, the corporations and everything. Corporations are giving them money and stuff like that. Of course, all we need to do is get money out of politics. Get money out of politics, and that's what I was thinking so long. I was thinking, oh, well, maybe if we become part of the system, and give them money ourselves, maybe we'd be able to do something. Maybe. I understood the whole Wolfpack thing, and I thought it was a great idea. But eventually I began starting to think even more about what's going on. Then I realized, no, that doesn't make any sense, because what is money in the first place? Has anyone ever thought of what money really is in the first place? Money is not money. Money is not worth anything. You know why? Because money can literally be created out of thin air by the Federal Reserve. And if the Federal Reserve is part of the government makes as much money as possible. So this whole thing of the government is in debt is because that money absolutely makes no sense. There's no tangible value to the money. There's no tangible value to anything, really. What is the tangible value? I work 8 hours 8 hours every single day a week, and I get 8 hours worth of money, 15 an hour for my internship. But guess what? That money that I get is not worth anything because the market actually sets the value. So I went down to my work and I saw that they were having this promotional thing from one of the companies called Vanguard. And they were selling coffee for 29 cents. And I was looking over at the Starbucks, which I usually go to even though they have crappy coffee. And I see that their coffee is $4. And I'm thinking, why would I spend $4 for a cup of coffee when I can always spend 29 cents? That's literally almost nothing. And then I'm like thinking, well, what if what if everyone just charged coffee for amount about that same price range? About 29 cents. Instead of $4, maybe $2. Maybe everyone had a certain value to put on the coffee. Starbucks started charging $2, and every other smaller coffee place usually sells it for cheaper, and they usually have better tasting coffee and stronger coffee and everything, and the value behind it is much greater, even though the brand recognition is there from Starbucks, and that's why I get Starbucks. But if I were to go over to some coffee place because I actually wanted good coffee, which I do sometimes, I would get it for half the value, half the amount of money that Starbucks sells their coffee in the first place. So instead of $4, it would be $2 or $3 for a cappuccino, and so on and so forth. I went to this one truck that was selling promotional coffee, a little watered down, but it was coffee, 29 cents. It was 29 cents. Well, let's see. 29 cents for a cup of coffee or $4 for a cup of coffee. It tastes almost exactly the same. It's still coffee. I'm going to go with the 29-cent one, but what if everyone did that? What if everyone just started selling all their coffee for 29 cents? You know what would happen to the market? Everyone wouldn't have to pay their employees as much money. So therefore, they would say, hey, instead of $15 an hour, let's lower it to $8 an hour for you. And for the people that are making minimum wage, let's lower their salary, because you know what? We don't need to charge them as much because everything dropped in value. Everything dropped in the dollar amount. Everything. And then you get to the point where you're thinking, well, does that make any sense? And then you're like, okay, of course it makes sense, because the dollar's actually not really worth anything. The only value the dollar has is what the market puts the dollar value at in the first place. Why do big businesses, why does government have power? The main reason why they do is because of our monetary system. Because we believe that a dollar is actually worth a dollar when it's really worth nothing. And if everyone just started paying their employees less and less money, the market would be forced to make their products cheaper so they can still get compensated for their efforts to make coffee, or for their efforts to make something else, like a computer. Instead of computers being thousands of dollars, because computers are really cool, computers would be hundreds of dollars if everyone started making less money. Because you can't just keep your value there. You can't keep the value of a really good computer at $1,000 if everyone in minimum wage is now working $3 an hour. And it comes to mind, well, what's the reason? What's the reason behind this? What's the reason behind this minimum wage in the first place? The minimum wage is the one thing that's keeping our dollar at such a high value. At such a low value, Because $9, $4 will give you a cup of coffee if you keep it at $9 an hour, because everyone's making so much. But if you make less, they're going to be forced to drop their wages down. What we really need to do is we need to understand that this money is not really worth anything. It's not worth shit, and the only reason why these corporations, why the government as a whole has so much power is because the money is not power, the money is a symbolism of their power. And as long as if we keep believing in the symbolism of the great almighty dollar to be some sort of god figure, that it's actually worth anything, then those corporations the government is going to stay in power. We need to understand something, and we need to understand it quick. The only reason why the dollar is worth something is because us as U.S. citizens believe it is. That is the only reason. And the sooner we know that the dollar has no value, and the only thing that's keeping us from having more power than the government and the corporations that are on top is the dollar, we're not going to get out of this mess.